To the Office of Career Services, faculty, staff, esteemed guests, and Golden Line family. Greetings, I am Christiana D. Barnes, a proud junior excelling in political science here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, with the aspirations of becoming a prosecutor. I'm your mistress of ceremony. I want to take this time to welcome you all to our 2022 Youth Motivational Task Force. This year feels a little different because we are celebrating 50 years. As we move forward into day 2 of this program, I hope everyone is excited about reclaiming life while boldly leading, investing, framing, and empowering. The program will proceed as printed, beginning with Ms. Naieri Phillips with the welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tanaya Wells, and I am a freshman computer science major here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I would like to welcome all students who are here today, taking the next step in building themselves and working towards their ambitions. I would also like to welcome all consultants who took the time and effort to be here today to share the rich knowledge they have of not just the professional world, but life. My peers and I are forever grateful to you all. Finally, I would like to welcome the Career Service team and all who assisted them in making today possible. Your efforts will not go to waste. So today, my fellow students, as we commence, I encourage you to take all you can from this opportunity to learn and to network. Let's reclaim life by leading, investing, framing, and empowering ourselves for success. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jalil Noor. I'm a sophomore here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, major in business administration with a concentration in management, and today I'm going to be leading the meditation for great achievers. Great achievers. I am fascinated by other people's creativity and productivity. I am in awe of their dedication and determination to fulfill their talents and desires. Great achievers are those who follow the yearnings of their souls. They are those who challenge themselves with daily sacrifices and relentlessly endure the inconveniences and consequences that occur as a result of their goals. They are focused on developing themselves, mastering their unique abilities, and making their dreams a part of their lifestyles. They create their own lives by never wasting a single day and possessing the inner strength to carry on through all of life's changes with an open mind and a hopeful heart. There is no reason to waste today. You are traveling through time. Tomorrow is beyond here and now. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kennedy Elmore. I'm majoring in business administration. I'm majoring in business administration with a concentration in marketing. I'm currently a junior here at the university. Can everyone please bow their heads for a word of prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing everyone to make it here safely today. I'd also like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to participate in YMTF. Bless this food that we're about to receive and the hands that have prepared it. Make it nourishing for our bodies, minds, and spirits. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
My name is LaKenna Whitehead. I'm a freshman at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, majoring in computer science. And it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Naieri Phillips. Nyerere was appointed to his most current role at AbbVie, Director of Pipeline Commercialization, in November 2020. He is responsible for driving continuous improvement in R&D, pipeline commercialization, people leadership, EEDI, and other business processes. Nyerere received a NASA fellowship to start his career as a research assistant at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. He has over 10 years experience in clinical operations, from directly leading clinical trials to overseeing multiple programs. Nyerere graduated from Knox College, where he majored in biology and served as commencement speaker for the class of 2020. He currently holds several leadership positions in the community, including serving as a member of the Board of Trustees at Knox for the past 5 years. He enjoys spending time with his family, traveling, biking, game nights, running, and leisurely reading. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Naieri Phillips.
Good morning. I like the energy on that one. Let me start out by sort of doing the housekeeping, so to speak. To my beautiful wife, Carrie, our son, Deuce, my sister-in-law, Kim, my cousin, Kamara, or niece, Kamara, and my niece, Ashley, is somewhere around here. Ashley. I'd like to thank Ms. Velois Bowers, who was instrumental in me participating in YMTF. I caught the bug the first year, and I've been back ever since. And this program that you all have, it's been 50 years in the making, but it is absolutely spectacular. I don't think I've seen in any other setting the care that you all receive. This year was my first year participating on the planning committee, and when I say this is fully designed with you in mind, this is fully designed with you in mind. And that being said, I'm going to relay to you two things and really want to take away the stigma of therapy and mental health. And the first one is therapy helps you become your lead investor. The second one is therapy helps you frame what's happening to empower you. For those of you that know what this program is about, it's about leading, investing, framing, and empowerment. And I want you to think about those two statements that I just said. Therapy helps you become your lead investor, so leading and investing. Therapy helps you frame what's happening to you to empower you. So in this first one, and for all the examples I'm going to use, I'm going to talk about myself. And I'm going to be very vulnerable with you. And the reason why is because there's power in being vulnerable. When you understand who you are and what you're going through, you're now in a position to say, here's what I need to change. Now the challenge is that we get stuck in our head, and we need some help. We need some tools on how to get out of that. And so that's why therapy helps you become your lead investor. And so for my career, early on, I was always jumping ship every 18 months. And one of the things I didn't know about myself that I learned in therapy is that I had this fear of being abandoned, which touched upon me not feeling lovable. And what therapy helped me do, which was frame that conversation a little bit differently, which was to say, you need to love yourself first, and then the rest of these things will come. And so I once took a position in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and when I started, they had heavily recruited me. They was like, well, we'll relocate you there. And I get there, and all of the hype, I felt it. And I'm delivering, and about 18 months in, I'm going, well, what's next? If y'all love me, I should be getting promoted, I should be getting more money. And there's this sense of this value proposition that I had about myself that was external coming in. I wasn't even filling my own cup. I was trying to perform, and I was being a people pleaser to make sure that what I was doing was being seen and recognized in a way that drew a value proposition back to me. And in the workplace, there are a set of parameters where you understand what the performance is, and you go towards that performance. But as you move up in the company, the positions get more competitive. And so I wanted to be a CEO, and I'm like, well, I got to get to the C-suite, but all of my peers wanted to get to the C-suite as well, too. So in that 18-month mark, I'm going, well, if y'all ain't going to promote me, I'm just going to go somewhere else. I was running from the work that it took to really learn this organization and really navigate my way up. Now, I'm telling you this from the perspective now that I've had the opportunity to unpack that experience and frame it differently. So let me step into this a little bit. I don't like to stand still. You're gonna make me stay right here? Yeah, I was looking for you for a permission first.
And so it's important that I frame this for you accurately. When you are striving to get validation external to you. When that validation doesn't happen, you have no idea what to do next. But you try harder, and you try to continue to do things that you felt like was working, and you're spinning in wheels. So my first therapy session in 2017, so this time I'm working for Johnson & Johnson, and I'm about at the 18-month mark. And so the same trend is happening again. And at this point, I'm now seeing the therapist for the first time. And the therapist says to me, she says, Nyerere, my first 2 sessions, you came in here, and you just talked. And she said, I listened, and you talked all your time. And she said, do you know why you did that? I said, no, I don't. I thought I was supposed to be in here and tell you about what's going on. She's like, well, you didn't pause. And I was like, you didn't ask me to pause. And she said, well, my job is to listen. So one of the things I found out about you is that you talked because maybe you thought I was going to leave you. That was that first moment where what happened to me as a child was now present in my face in a way that I hadn't seen it before. I was having this anxiety as I was turning 40, and the anxiety was about everything that you had been doing was building for this moment. Because now, when faced with the mirror, I was able to see, wow, I'm really not necessarily here because I'm trying to understand what's happening. I was looking for a solution to an answer that she said, you are the solution. And so as I'm talking, the next session she goes, you know what, before you start talking, I want to ask you a question. And so she says, well, why do you think people are going to leave you? And it's the first time that I said, well, my mama didn't raise me, and I never knew my dad. And the breakdown is absolutely different. But for the first time, I saw that this notion of, I've got to do it, I've got to make it happen, that was a defensive mechanism because I didn't love myself. As long as I was achieving, the workplace said we're going to find something for you. And when I felt like I was now in competition and I wasn't going to be the top candidate, the defensive mechanism was to run and to find a place where I was now valued. And she said, you're going to have to, at some point in your life, be still and learn to love who you are. And I did not, when I say I bawled and I cried, it was tough realizing that in everything that I was doing, I didn't love myself. And some of you are sitting here now, and you're thinking about what somebody else has in store for you. You're thinking about where the next approval is going to come from, where the next A in your class is going to come from. All of that is all good things. Except when you don't love yourself, you're going to miss the experience of being. Now, one of the things that I was fortunate by is that my therapist told me, you have a karmic yoga heart. And that means you, by your very design, are designed to just give. And you don't want anything in return. So all of the goodness that I had been experiencing in life was truly about who I was. And what I later realized is that there was one person who was missing that. And that was me. So I was looking for this external validation that I was consistently getting because I was consistently being a good individual. But when I learned to love myself, it became less about what am I giving so I can get in return, but it was more about, can I just enjoy being myself? And when I learned to start enjoying being who I was, I found that my cup was always filled. I didn't need an organization to tell me that I was performing well. I didn't need somebody to tell me that I was being a good person because I was volunteering. I was now living in who I am every single moment. So for the past 5 years, I've been in the best relationship that I've ever been in. It impacted who I was as a father, as a person, as an employee. And it was all because my new frame of reference was, every day that I wake up, I'm now saying, Nyerere, how are you going to love yourself today? And how are you going to be the first person to love yourself? See, I had this thing where I was always thinking that I needed words of affirmation. And I did. But I needed them from me. See, what I get from the outside, I can sit on my plate. And I can see it and I can be grateful for it. But what I put in my cup, that I drink, it fuels me. And that opened the door for me to be the lead investor in my life. So now, me taking care of my mental health is really important to me. If I don't start my day with a meditation, I feel off. So I feel like the day is going to get busy, and I'm going to start getting into taking care of other people, taking care of work, taking care of family. Because that moment of taking that time out to say, Nyerere, this is for you. This is about you. So you sit and you enjoy just being with yourself. And when I say I can now sit down, whether it's in a crowd of folks or by myself, and just be grateful for the being that I am. You know, Jeff talked about this a little bit last night. For those of you who missed out, it's an amazing conversation. But there's this notion that your purpose, we're always looking external to find out what our purpose is. When in fact, your purpose is the very being that you are. Your first purpose in life is for you to absolutely enjoy being you. Let me say this again. Your first purpose in life is for you to enjoy being you. Because if I don't enjoy me, my wife can't enjoy me. My kids can't enjoy me. And so when you show up with this enjoyment, this love of who you are, you now become present everywhere you are. Which means I don't have to worry about what I said to this person or that person, because I'm the same person and I know who I am and I know what I said. Because I know who I'm being. When you get in tune with yourself, when you start to say, I am the lead investor in who I am, your life will change. Because mentally, you're now thinking about those things that truly matter to who you are. Jeff gave this example yesterday, and I was going to give it today as well, too, so I'm just going to follow up on it. When you decide to do something because somebody else wants to do it, knowing that you didn't want to do it, before therapy, I used to think that was me being flexible and adaptable and adjusting to the scenario. And what I later learned is that there's a part of that experience where I held a little grudge. So I knew I didn't really want to be there. And there's probably not a person in this room who hasn't been there. So when being the lead investor in my life, in 2020, I had started building, when we moved to Chicago, I started building this Black-owned collection of alcohol. So I wanted to support Black businesses. I was trying to get this custom bar built in the house. The bar gets delayed once, gets delayed a second time. The third time it gets delayed now. This is New Year's Day, this past New Year's Day. I said to my wife, I said, if that bar gets delayed one more time, just cancel it. And it got delayed. And she canceled it. That was myself telling me that these delays are intentional. The decision that I needed to make for me, about me, was that I no longer wanted to drink alcohol. Now, I came from a family dynamic where alcohol was abused consistently. I used to always tell myself that I'm going to put some guardrails around how I drink. Now, I've been strict in college, but I was like, oh, it's the weekend, this is what we do in college. I was accepting of what that was without realizing that the very thing that I said I didn't want to do, I'm somehow keeping in my life. And I had to get to the point of saying, that's not who I want to be. It doesn't add value to the space where I'm going. For this next part of this journey, alcohol is not going to be a part of it. Jeff said last night, sometimes you got to understand how to keep things away that don't serve you. When you're the lead investor in your life, you're thinking about, does this serve me? Does this serve me where I am now? And that is serve where I want to go. And that's what's so important about mental health therapy. It is a conversation you get to have. It was not the solution, but it was certainly a key that helped me unlock something that I didn't see. As an investor, you're always looking at an opportunity and you're saying, what is this opportunity going to give? How is it going to grow? What does it require of me? And if you're not asking that question about yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to get to where you want to go. There's a point where, and I tell this story often, that my North Star growing up in Marianna, Arkansas, said I wanted to be a doctor. And when I didn't get in, I tried 3 straight years. It was a terrible experience. And looking back now, it was so terrible because I didn't love myself. I was carrying the weight of external expectations that I had accepted as part of my story. But when I started to unpack and go, oh, did you put in the work? Well, yeah, I put in the work. Did I make the decisions and say, well, this summer I'm going to prioritize and focus on this? Yes. When I look back, I did all of the things that I was supposed to do to get it. But I'm looking back now, I now know that there was a lesson in that. That success is not simply about how hard you work at something. Success is about what do you learn about yourself when you fall down. And when Jeff gave that example of saying, hey, I took this first step and I failed, and I got up and I'm closer. When I finally got up from realizing that me not going to medical school was intentional, I realized that I've got a massive fellowship. And this fellowship was tied to the Space Shuttle Columbia. So when that crashed, the CDC was like, we'll gladly take you. I didn't realize the power in that because I was still worried about my knees being straight from the fall and how other people were perceiving me. And even though I was making good decisions, I wasn't living that experience that I needed. But when I got the lesson, I absolutely saw the blessing in the fall. So when you fall, it is so important for you to realize that as a lead investor, I am now in this position getting up. Find me a person who can get up from 2 knees without at some point being in this position. Because when you fall like you're supposed to fall, when you learn that lesson, you're in a state of humility. If you believe in God, we call this a prayer position. You grew up in the Black Baptist church like I did in Marianna, when that deacon got like this on that front pew. The turn up, as you young folks say, was about to be real. That was power. Every time you fall, that is your power now getting ready to be activated. But it is up to you to realize that as the lead investor, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn so that I can make the investment in myself so that I can take a leadership position in terms of who I am. And your leadership position, as Jeff said yesterday, and I'm reiterating today, It starts with loving yourself. And you absolutely have to love yourself. Because through thick and thin, I am everything that I have done, good, bad, or indifferent. I am every opportunity that I've accepted. I am every opportunity that I've walked away from. I am the good days. I am the bad days. I am a being. When I learn to love myself as a being, I accept everything about me. And in accepting everything about me, I now can see my strengths. I can see my weaknesses. I can see my opportunities to growth. And I can see my threats to when I want to be successful. So that first point, therapy helps you become your lead investor. The second point I want to make, therapy helps you frame what's happening so you can empower yourself. At the demise of my first marriage, one of the most difficult parts was the fact that we had created these 3 amazing kids. And I was not going to see them every day. When I look back, by the time I got divorced, I had been traveling every week for like 7 years. So this notion that I couldn't be a long distance dad because I didn't love myself, I didn't see it that God was already doing it while I was in the marriage. I knew I could leave and go focus on what I needed to focus on and come back and get right in the mix of being an active full-time dad. So when the divorce happened, I didn't know this thing, but that anxiety was starting. That sense of, man, you don't love yourself, is starting. So one of my first therapy sessions, same lady, I said, look, when I drop my kids off, I cry. I cried every time. The first year of the divorce, I literally didn't matter where I was in the world. I was flying back to see those kids every weekend for the first year. Didn't matter how much it cost, because I was committed to making sure they were well. And as they kind of grew older, we went from every other week to 1 month. So by this time, I'm seeing them once a month. And every time I leave them, I'm like, hey, here's the schedule. This is when I'm going to be back. And if something comes up at work, I'm going to let you guys know. So I was communicating with them happy. She said to me, she said, man, it sounds like you're an amazing dad. And I'm sure these kids see that. And I was like, I think so too. And so she's like, but why do you think you're crying? So I was like, because I don't want them to feel abandoned. She said, do you think they feel that you've abandoned them? She said, because everything you said is that you're always present. They know where you are when you're not there. They know what you're doing when you're not there. So she's like, well, do they cry? I was like, well, the older two don't, the younger one. She was like, well, he's probably going to grow out of it. And they wasn't crying. They was getting out of the car, and it's like, I'll be back at mom's house, let's get you in. And that drive from pulling out of their driveway to the airport was all tears. But I now know, because she asked this one question, do they feel abandoned or do you feel abandoned? I was projecting on my kids something that I was not willing to address because I couldn't see it. And I couldn't see it because I was not being the lead investor in my life to figure out what that gap was. And so once I started to go, wait a minute, I think she's onto something. These kids do know exactly where I am. And they do know I'm a phone call away. And they say, hey, Dad, we got parent-teacher conference tomorrow. And today is right now. If I got to catch the red eye to get there, I was going to be there. So I felt abandoned. And now I needed to unpack that and get a sense of what that felt like. Because in the one hand, I was going, I'm not going to be this man who abandoned me. And I'm going to make sure these kids know I don't get it, that I'm not abandoning them. And so when we frame that a little bit differently, because I don't know the circumstances of why my dad was absent. I took it that he abandoned me intentionally. When there's only one fact, is that he was merely absent. To abandon somebody is to take them and put them somewhere and then leave them. He never left me anywhere. He simply was not present. And when I look at his absence,
I once heard somebody say this, is that, and I think it was T.D. Jakes, sometimes people are absent out of your life for a purpose. Now let's dig a little bit deeper in this purpose. I told you all that there's a part of you that is a being. In order for me to be right here in this moment with you, to tell this story, he had to be absent. For me to decide the moment I had my first kid that I was never going to be absent, I had to know what the absence felt like. Y'all, I'm giving you all of who I am right now. And I'm giving you what I gave the therapist, which was, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on, and the therapist asks these questions and say, I want you to do some work on those questions. I went and did the work. Because when you decide that you want to be successful, and in order to own your own success, you absolutely have to be the lead investor in your life. And when you are the lead investor in your life, you now start to think about things in different perspectives. When you can get additional perspectives about your life, it opens you up to being empowered. So I'm going to fast forward a couple of years. So I joined this organization that I'm still with in 2018. And they recruited me heavily. So they go, Nyerere, we'd like you to mature our project management office. I'm like, okay, great. This is what I want to do. Get there. 3 months in, do my gap assessment. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to present this. And like, well, we got a meeting. We need you to come to this meeting. And I'm like, you going to lay off? So I go check the stock price. And I'm like, wait, okay, we in good standing. So it's not that. So we get in this meeting and they're like, Nyerere, we're integrating into our pain company. And now it's in North Chicago. So my family and I would have just moved to California. Not even 18 months in, they're like, we'd like you to move to headquarters. And they say, we don't have a role for you. Because the role that you were doing, we actually have these other 4 people that are leading those teams that you used to lead. But we want you to move here. And I was like, well, I don't know about this. I'm in South San Francisco. I can find a job anytime. You think about that first thing with that 18-month mark, and I was always running. But now I've uncovered that I was never abandoned. So now the framing is different because now I love myself. I believe in myself. I'm now the lead investor in myself. And so I go, well, let me look at it from this perspective. So I go, well, I'm definitely going to get out of this California mortgage. That's a plus. The pandemic happens, and now I'm a little bit closer to my kids in Arkansas, my wife family who lives here. I was on the board of trustees, and I was supposed to come on for a gap year. They waive, so they meet without me. They say, hey, we'd like to waive our bylaws. And everybody's voted because we'd like for you to stay on. Their fear is that if I came off the board, somebody was going to snatch me up, and I wouldn't be available to them. I was going to take a gap year because I was like, oh, give me a little break from being on the board meeting. But now the framing of this decision, coupled with this company saying, move here, we don't have a role for you, but we will figure it out. We will make sure you're whole through the process, so you don't have to worry about taking a loss on selling the house. We will put you up in temporary housing. We will make this a comfortable experience for you. Because I love myself now, and I'm on this journey, I said I'm going. Because now this is an investment in me. I'm about to find out what I'm made of. So that first year, I did whatever they asked me to do. Nyerere, do a gap assessment here. Did the gap assessment here. Hey, Nyerere, we need you to work with this team here. People are asking me, hey, Nyerere, what's your role? Well, it's whatever they need me to do. We've got a 50,000 person company. If I saw a black person working in the cafeteria, I started to build my black network.
So I'm meeting all the black people, it's one-on-one, giving my philosophy, telling everybody who would listen that I want to be a CEO, this is what this is, but I'm showing up and I'm executing. But for the first time in my career, I felt truly at peace. Because I was not performing for them. I was showing up as who I was. Went through my lock journey with this company. That was a different thing for me. But this was about me. Forget your perceptions of me. If I'm happy with this, I'm going to show up as this person. And that's what I showed up. So I get there in September of 2020. October of 2020, they call me and say, hey, Nyerere, we'd like for you to lead this team. I said, okay. And it's like, we're going to take your old role that you had, and we're going to combine it with this role. We're just going to create this title for you. And it's going to be a promotion as well because it's going to move you up the rank. Jeff talked about when you walk in your purpose and you step, that things start to light up. Here it is, this board saying, we don't want you to come off. Here's this company saying, we got to figure out how to keep you, so we want you to move here. And now all of a sudden, so fast forward to October 2021, they go, Nyerere, we did not realize this, but we absolutely see you as a leader. Your people leadership skills, the way you lead with empathy, it's so powerful. We'd like for you to lead these 2 new teams. So now I'm leading 3 teams. And that was all because I decided to and be my lead investor. And so when there was times where I didn't have a role, and there was some days they were struggling, like, well, I don't know what's next for me. And when I stopped worrying about what was next for me, and I started focusing on how am I going to show up today? Am I going to show up in a way that I love myself? My leadership team meetings, I lead a team of 36. We start off every leadership team meeting with 5 minutes of meditation. When I have my staff meeting, it's the whole group, 5 minutes of meditation. I have now my peers asking me, why did you do this? And so I have 3 principles that I have. But if you work for me, we're going to talk about 3 things. Shared leadership. We're going to talk about development. And we're going to talk about work-life balance. And this first notion of shared leadership, and Jeff talked about this. I don't care who on my team gets promoted ahead of me. Last year, I lost 12 people off my team. 10 of them got promoted within the organization. The organization now sees me as he's building a talent pipeline that we didn't know. So they come back and say, hey, would you join this R&D Diversity Council? So now I'm on the R&D Diversity Council, and the things that I brought into my team, I'm now bringing it to a point where I can impact the entire organization. So we have this 25-person organization called the Black Business Network. And 7 people nominated me to be the chair. I was like, yeah, I got a lot on my plate. I just took this other team over. No, I'm good. Another person came by. I said, no, I'm okay. Then the person who's the chair called me. She said, look, at least 7 people have recommended you. Would you at least think about this? And I said, well, look, if 7 people are saying I need to step into this moment, I might need to think about what's the value proposition of me stepping into that moment. And in stepping into that moment, this year, we brought in Dr. Regina Benjamin, the 18th Surgeon General. I was the only black man on the panel. And she says, I am so glad to see a brother. Me loving myself, I didn't step up for that. But she reminded me of the impact of what it means to be present. But what I also walked away from that was this sense of empowerment. When I was able to reframe why I was there, and that my purpose was about me being who I am, and living in the fullness of who I am, now empowered to work through anything and work with anybody, and to be able to show up and authentically say, this is who I am. I'm going to close with this story. And when I say this, stepping into the light. The class of 2020 was one of the first class to have their commencement canceled. So my alma mater, I'm an all-star speaker. Because I'm living in Chicago at the moment, because I've learned to love myself, I'm now walking in my purpose in a very different way from what I've been. So our first black president calls me and he says, hey, look, when they told me I needed to pick a 2020 commencement speaker for this class, I knew it was you. So I'm sitting at my desk, I was working, bent over, and I'm in tears. Carrie comes over, what's wrong? And I'm struggling to get it up. She just asked me to be a commencement because I'm all crying. And when you talk about stepping into that, I had always wanted to be a commencement speaker in my own life. I didn't never have that conversation with him. I told my wife, I told my friends about it. I haven't told anybody on the board about it. But I was where I was supposed to be because I made a decision as the lead investor in who I was. Now that I've learned how to frame the fact that I wasn't abandoned, I was now stepping in a place of being empowered. I'm now empowered to do opportunities that I probably would have missed out on because I wasn't yet in position. When you're the lead investor in your life, you're putting yourself constantly in positions of being who you are, and in being who you are at the very space you need to be the impact that nobody else can deliver but you. So this turns out to what the camera crew who's doing this commencement speech or commencement ceremony is WGN, the largest news stations, and certainly in all of Chicago, number one, but it's broadcast nationally. So I go there the night before, and our commencement is outside in the lawn. The last time I was out there in the lawn, I was on the board of trustees and looking out. Well, this time I'm now not sitting up there rolled up as on the board. I'm about to give the commencement address. So I went the night before because I just wanted to soak in the moment. And so I'm standing here as they're setting up. And the AV guy comes over and he's like, oh, you graduated? I've got all this gray hair, so we had this inside joke, so we're laughing. And so I'm a people person. I don't talk to anybody. So we're just talking. So I didn't tell him I was going to be the commencement speaker. I thought, hey, I graduated the night before, so he just figured, okay, he must live here. So I finished my speech, come down. Lots of folks are meeting and greeting. I don't remember talking to this guy after that. He sends me an email, and he says, hey, I was at the commencement address you did back in October, and we found some rare footage of Dr. King from 1966. We'd like for you to sit and watch it and let's tape you. And I was like, okay, easy enough. God asked me to talk. This is what I do. And so then he calls me up. So as we were talking, he was like, well, look, I want to make sure I'm clear about this. We're not actually to be the leading authority on Dr. King. This is a story about you. So I tell my wife, I said, wait, look, I don't want to do a story about me. I don't know what this is about. So they come by, he comes in, he's setting up his cameras. This conversation that we had, recently just aired, and I've shared it with a few people since I've been here. But that came about well before I knew it would happen. And I went through the exact preparation to be prepared for that conversation. And in order for me to be there, because I talk about a difficult relationship that I started with my mom and how I needed to think about the fact that she never abandoned me. She gave me to the best person she knew would take care of. But I was 7 when that happened. I couldn't have saw that at that point. So I built these walls up, and in therapy, I had to knock the walls down myself. as I've knocked the walls down by myself or, with therapy, I figured out this beautiful relationship that exists with my mom. But that started because I figured out the beautiful relationship that starts with me. And now all of my relationships are beautiful from that perspective. Is that I get to step in and have that conversation. Lois called me about 2.5 weeks ago we talked. And I was supposed to be on the phone because she was like, I got a couple questions. We were probably an hour and a half on that call. But in that moment, it was just me and Lois talking. I was present in that conversation to get out of something that she was even giving to me. Because one of the things that she teed me up with in asking the question is a question about finances. And Lois, we didn't talk about this afterwards, but I left going, what could I do differently as a fundraiser? And then I started thinking, well, who am I as an individual? How can I impact something else? And it was really clear. And this is what was clear. Therapy helped me become a lead investor in myself. And it helped me frame who I am so that I live in an empowered state. And in living in an empowered state, I now have the ability and the opportunity to influence and impact. And if you can tell a story of how you can influence something and bring impact to something, you will find yourself owning your success. What you're about to hear for this next day and a half, it's about that. It's about owning your success. And in order for you to do that, you need to take care of your mental health. You need to ask yourself and be introspective. How does this serve me? Am I showing up in a way that says, I love myself? Because when you decide to show up to love yourself, it's not about who's in the gym while you're shooting. Because the most important thing is that you're in the gym shooting, because you know that that's how you're going to get to be successful. So in order for you to own your own success, grasp a hold of your mental health. Take advantage of the resources that are available. And the thing that you're absolutely going to have to do is that you're going to have to put in the work. So I'm going to leave with this right here. Stop worrying about who's in the gym with you while you're shooting. Get yourself in the gym and shoot. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open the floor now for Q&A.
My name is Adam Smith, a computer science major. My question to you is, how was it getting your networking with the African Americans at your workplace? Like, how was it creating that group that you did create?
Yeah, so he's asking the question, how did I create the group? And I didn't create the group. The group already existed. But what I was doing it First Fridays because I wasn't a part of that group. I was building my network and starting to figure out who was who were the black vice presidents, who was the black senior directors. And I was just meeting folks. And in terms of that ended up being a group of folks who, as I was unpacking and I was showing and demonstrating that I love myself, what I found was people started to be drawn. And people started forwarding this conversation to other people. And so in a lot of ways, I was running something that was very similar to the Black Business Network, because if you called me and said, hey, I need some advice on my development plan, or hey, I'm going for this interview, I was stepping up and giving coaching and guidance in those situations. And the Black Business Network does that as well too. So it absolutely made sense in terms of what I was already doing to marry it to something that was already existing. And so it turned out to be, again, because we were in the pandemic, I was doing what I felt was natural, because it was organic to who I was. And to find out that this other group existed and they wanted me to be a part of the leadership, again, as I got ready to take that next step, that step was already lit.
Hello, my name is Kelley. I'm a criminal justice major, and I want to know, how did you get over the stigma and hoopla of therapy? Does it really help us Black people?
You know, and that's a really good point. If you think about what I said, and you think about the question was, how did I get over the stigma of mental health? That stigma is external. You choose to decide if you're going to listen to it or not. Think about shooting in a gym. The stigma says don't go in the gym to shoot. Well, how you going to get better if you don't go in there to shoot? At some point, you have to ask yourself the question of this thing that's coming external to you. Why are you even allowing it to influence you in that way? And as you are allowing it to influence you in that way, that's a signal that you don't love yourself. The moment you don't do something that you know is in your best interest because you're worried about what somebody external to you is going to say, you're no longer the lead investor in your life. You've let this external influence invest in you, and now it is actually guiding you. You're going to have to break away from those things that are external to you, that do not feel natural to you, that do not make you feel whole, that do not allow you to love yourself. If it takes you away from loving yourself, it is absolutely not for you, period. There is no gray area in that. Doesn't matter if it's from a parent, a sibling, a best friend for your entire life. If it does not allow you to love yourself, it is absolutely not for you. And that is an absolute sign that you need to work on your mental health. Because you need to be able to think about yourself and love yourself and act in a way that sets you up to own your own success. Because if you ever come into my office and say, they, you have obviously missed why you're in my office. Because if they told you what to do, and you knew what to do, and you did it their way, we got a problem. Because you have a problem. And let me be very clear. Having problems is not a bad thing. They are absolutely unavoidable. Here's a fact of life. You cannot succeed without failing. And when you fall, you have been set up to succeed. They absolutely go hand in hand, and when you can frame it, you're now empowered to now be the lead investor in your life. It's really that simple. And I don't want you guys to get a sense that I'm talking at you, more so than I'm here reminding myself of that very thing. Because loving yourself and knowing who you are, it is a continual journey. I no longer eat beef, pork, and chicken. So hard to walk by there and I'm going, they got bacon, they got sausage, and now I got to pass it. But in terms of me doing what I know is for me, that's me owning my success, well, I got to eat the eggs and potatoes and toast. I'm framing that I don't have to eat this bacon, and I don't have to eat this pork, and I don't have to eat this chicken, and I don't have to eat something that's not going to be positioning towards where I'm trying to go. You have to own that. So your question is let go of the external influences and you influence yourself. But that's going to require you to ask some hard questions of yourself. And it's going to require your effort.
Hello, I'm Brianna West, majoring in biology pre-med. And I wanted to know, what is your exact job description and how did you get there?
Yeah, so my exact job description, this is something you guys are going to learn about the professional workplace. Your title and what you do are not the same thing. They are absolutely not the same thing. So my title was a director of pipeline commercialization. What that means is for every drug that we put to market, it has to come through my shop. My team oversees approximately 90 different assets that the organization is investing in, and it is our responsibility to tell them where it fits within the portfolio and whether or not we should prioritize how much we're spending, when we spend, what are the resources, and we have to constantly communicate. If this isn't going to make it to the market, they need to know as early as possible. My wife likes to say that I'm in meetings all day. With 90 assets and 36 people, there is always a fire that needs to be put out. So it's not in my job description to be a fireman, but I am absolutely a fireman. You are putting out fires every single day. And so in terms of what I do, the craft is portfolio and program management. I am significantly certified in those areas. That is a space where I'm a tactician in terms of understanding what the latest literature is. I am constantly learning about what is the latest trends. And then I actually bring that into my own style to figure out, how does this represent? And that's something that you're going to have to do when you're owning your own success. You've got to bring information in. Again, I'm going to keep repeating these things. You've got to frame it so that you can find your empowerment, which means you're going to have to invest in yourself. I take no shortcuts when it comes to preparing myself for work. I take no shortcuts in preparing myself for loving my wife, loving my kids, being a pillar within the community. There are no shortcuts that I'm looking for because I'm enjoying each moment and I'm learning about who I am. And because I'm being myself, I don't have to get up and with a different set of energy to do anything because I'm showing up authentically in everything I do.
Hello, my name is Courtland Pinkins. I'm a graduate in computer science. My question is, how did you go about finding the right therapies for you?
That's an amazing question. My first therapist was a white woman, and she was so matter-of-fact in her approach. And because I was going through this unpacking and emotional state, it kind of felt cold. It's like, here I am, bawling, like, is there no I didn't know what to expect, but something felt off. So I finished my 6 sessions, and then I was like, well, 2 things I did. One I did wrong was thinking of, oh, well, she's told me that I was projecting onto my kids. Oh, I think I'm healed. Oh, that was wrong. It was a journey. That was the start of a whole bunch of unpacking that continues to this day. I still try to see my therapist at least once a month, but at least I try to do it every other Saturday. And I'm consistent in when I do that. And if I can't have my therapy session, I kind of get a little grumpy, so I now try to figure out how to move it. So that was one thing I did. The second thing I was like, well, maybe this wasn't it, so let me try something else. My next one I chose, and it was a Hispanic man. And I spent a year with him. And there's a point where he was perfect for me because he was great at listening and great at helping me frame the things that I was sharing with him. But there's a point where it became a little bit stagnant, where inside of me, I now knew I was at the point where my therapist needed to be black. Because I found myself explaining some things that I would say something and they would say something and I'd be like, well, no, contextually that's not right. So I had to get with somebody who contextually understood when I was talking about what it's like to be a black man and the only black man in a conference room. I needed somebody who knew what that felt like. But let me be absolutely clear with you. Getting a therapist is better than getting no therapy. When you get the first one and you take the first step, again, you're going to be framing things, you're going to be unpacking things. When it's time for you to find another therapist, you will know it. Because you're going to feel like, this is something else. that means you now are going to be getting closer to what you're looking for. Our minds tell us when we need to do something. I didn't share this story, but when I first started having anxiety attacks around 2015, 2016, the only way I can get out of my own head was to run 6 miles. I started losing weight because I was running 6 miles every day. And people like, Nyerere, are you sick? Are you done? Like, I'm your boy. Like, you'll tell me if you're about to die. I'm like, the only time I'm about to die is when I hit the 5-mile mark. And now I got to realize I got to get all the way back home. But that was the thing. I was losing this weight. And my wife would be like, you're just a thin man. And so when I started going to therapy, I started getting into this space of going, well, I don't got to run to get out of my thoughts now. I now have a set of tools on how to deal with who I am and learn how to love myself. See, when I started running, I wasn't being compassionate with who I am. I was trying to run away from my thoughts. The work that I needed to do, the effort that I needed to put in, and I said this earlier, I needed to be still. And when you go to meditate, or when you go to pray, you're being still. The listening is different when you're still versus when you're on the move. God speaks to me when I'm being still, so that I'm moving purposefully in the being that I am. That's the piece that you have to get. That's the piece that I want you to walk away with. Is that be still with your thoughts and accept them for what they are. They are simply just your thoughts. One of the issues that plagued me was catastrophic thinking. Ms. Cherry, make sure we're on time. Stop me when you need to. Wrap it up. Okay. So I suffer from catastrophic thinking. In being poor and in growing up poor, and again, going back to that other thing is feeling abandoned, I always had to have a fail-safe because I was always worried what would happen if I didn't have this or I didn't have that. Who was going to help me pick up the pieces? Again, I'm pointing externally. When internally, what I didn't realize is that I was going to be there every step of the way. Whether there was somebody there to pick up the pieces or not, I was going to be there. And when I started to realize that piece, and I started to own that, my success became differently. And so the thing that my anxiety was telling me was that there is something that you're trying to run from that I'm not going to let you run from. So the trigger for me to go see a therapist was I now needed to deal with this head on, because running from it was no longer helping.
My name is Ms. Christiana Barnes. My question is, how did you still see the light through your uncomfortable situations?
You know what? That's an interesting question. And I haven't gone to church in a long time. I have some fundamental issues about me in church that I kind of had, because there's difference between religion and spirituality. And I really poured into that, stepping into that spirituality. But there's a framing for the spirituality that I have now that was rooted in the Word. And there's this song, Somebody Prayed for Me. Somebody had me on their mind, and they took the time. So when I couldn't see straight, that was some soulful prayers that was helping navigate and protect me. And there were times where sometimes it was a scripture that just got me through. And there was power in, again, this landscape that I'm talking about. Whereas my grandparents were not equipped to tell me or recognize that I was feeling abandoned and to make sure I felt love, but they knew that I needed prayer, because that prayer was going to give me some things that I could not see. And because they was faithful, what was supposed to be seen was going to be revealed to me just by my very being. One of the first tattoos that I ever got, it's a quote that I absolutely love. A good seed planted in poor soil will bear good fruit by its nature. The fact that I am a good seed is indisputable, even when I didn't see it. But to have somebody praying, which is watering me when I couldn't water myself, so that time when, again, that cup, right? So that cup was being filled, and I had this foundation of, right, this space of being, and I simply needed it to see it myself. And therapy helped me see it myself. It helped me frame that thing. Something that people used to say to me from Mariana's, man, you are the light in your family's eyes. I rejected it because of what I thought they were saying about my family, versus in looking at it now, young man, I see the light in you. There is something in you. That's that prayer that when you get there, the answer is already there. And let me close with this. There are times in my life where I just needed to get there, and everything was already ready for me. My grandparents did not know what they could give me. They gave me prayer. When I left to go to college, I can imagine the immense sense of loss that they had, of feeling like they couldn't go with me on this journey. That's how I framed it. But in reality, because they saw the light in me, they wasn't worried. They knew that when I showed up wherever I was going to show up, I was going to show up authentic to who I was, in the sense of even when I couldn't see it, I was always kind. I've never been cussed out. I've never been punched. Even in relationships, I've never been yelled at. It is because how I carry myself that I've found myself day in and day out not being in those type of situations. So even when I couldn't see it, I was being that good seed, and I was actually sprouting from that space. But the empowerment comes when I saw it for myself. And that was what therapy was, a game changer. And I tell it to my friends now, I will see a therapist for the rest of my life, because it has been that valuable of a tool for me. It is not the solution, but now if I'm going through something, I can reach down and I can still pull out a good old soulful prayer, or I can call up my therapist and have a conversation, and sometimes I might need to do both. But it's about having tools in your toolbox. So in order to own your own success, make sure your toolbox got a lot of tools in them.
I'm Kate Peterson, the elementary education major, and my question to you will be, how did you navigate through normalizing mental health days in your industry?
Yeah, normalizing mental health where?
Mental health days, because it's not, when you say, okay, I need a mental health day, that's less respected than you actually having a physical injury.
You know, interestingly enough, Dr. Jessica Henry, she leads the Black Mental Wellness Group. She's one of 4 sisters that they're starting this powerhouse conversation around mental health therapy. They all have their own practice, and then they come together under this umbrella. She said to us, your sick days, even though you think about them physically, also include your mental health days. You have to take a mental health day, because that can also make you physically sick as well too. So prioritizing your mental health is, you got to also plan accordingly. Some days I'll take scheduled mental health days, and I'll be like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to try to take this, but I got to clear that calendar so that I can rest easy. But you are empowered to rest when you need rest. and you don't have to get anybody's permission, but you do need to communicate around your responsibilities.
Nyerere. No, everybody give him another round of applause. And I really want to say this from my heart. Nyerere has truly been a blessing to YMTF. Not only does he give his time, he goes in his pocket as well. So thank you for Valores. She met him somewhere and she told me, she said, I met this guy and I'm going to invite him to YMTF. And then this year, I invited him to be a part of the committee in planning YMTF.
Was it an invitation? I still got the text.
Huh?
Was it an invitation? I still got the text.
I texted you and told you?
Yes.
Oh, I did?
Yes.
Well, you won't get no letter.
Yeah.
Except the text. No, just kidding. But anyway, your presentation was awesome today. I know when we were planning, he said to me, he said, it's great to have something on mental health, but we need to talk about the stigma that is basically in the African American community before we even start talking about it. So the next thing you're going to do, but first, let me present you this token of appreciation for your presentation today. It was absolutely excellent.
Thank you.